Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up something pretty remarkable. It's this ancient strategic wisdom, really, focused on spiritual resilience. And specifically, when you face opposition, not just from anyone, but from powerful institutions you know, the people or forces we tend to think of as rulers. Our mission, our focus today is unpacking just one single powerful verse, Psalm 119, verse 23. It lays out this complete counter-strategy for dealing with character attacks. Though rulers sit together and slander me, your servant will meditate on your decrees. So we're really drilling down into why this specific response, which isn't about fighting back directly, why it's seen as so effective, the best long-term solution to deliberate lies.
Yeah, and this is, I think, incredibly valuable knowledge for you listening. Because slander, especially when it comes from people or systems with real power, think political, institutional, maybe even, social media mobs today. It's not just hurtful. It's designed, really, to completely destabilize you. And what people are looking for isn't just a quick defense, right? They want an effective, almost healing mechanism, something that gives you internal stability when everything outside feels chaotic. So we really have to explore why meditation, which, let's be honest, sounds kind of passive, is actually presented as this incredibly active strategic move.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. And I think we need to start by really getting the weight of the attack itself.
Yeah.
Why is the source so specific about the accusers being rulers? What's the significance there?
That emphasis is absolutely crucial. See, when slander comes from a ruler, an official, an establishment, someone with authority, it carries this institutional weight. It's often backed by systems, by power structures. This isn't just like playground gossip. We're talking about the intentional spreading of lies, specifically designed to wreck your character, often on a pretty big scale. It can threaten your job, your reputation, sometimes even your freedom.
And the ancient texts, they take this really, really seriously. Our source materials keep pointing out that things like bearing false witness or having a lying tongue, these aren't minor slips. No, they're explicitly listed among behaviors considered, well, abhorrent. You see that in places like Proverbs 6. It just confirms the whole moral backdrop views this kind of attack as fundamentally destructive.
Exactly. And that context really sets up this dramatic contrast. Slander tries to wound you, to destroy your name, and maybe most importantly, to steal your peace, your equilibrium. But the strategy proposed, it's not revenge, it's not despair either. It's a very deliberate inward turn. The person is told basically seek restoration, seek cleansing by focusing on something fixed, the truth, the decrees, rather than getting caught up in the shifting mess of the lie itself. So the choice becomes retaliation versus meditation. It's really a choice between external chaos and, well, internal control.
Okay, that sounds wise, in principle. But here's where I think a lot of people, maybe especially today, would push back a bit. Silence can feel like surrender, right? If some powerful ruler institutions out there slandering you, how can meditation possibly be called a secret weapon? Doesn't the lie just stand if you don't immediately jump in and correct it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the strategic genius, I think, of the meditation approach here is how it completely short-circuits the accuser's whole power dynamic. Think about it. What does a slanderer or a ruler spreading lies actually want? What do they crave? They want your reaction. They want your energy. They want the public drama that follows. If you react with anger or panic, you actually feed into it. You confirm the lie has power over you, and often you end up validating their efforts. Meditation is the ultimate refusal to play that game. It denies them that power.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. You're cutting off the fuel supply for the external conflict by maintaining your internal control. So let's get specific then. What exactly is the function, maybe psychologically, spiritually, of this meditative focus? What's it doing?
Right. So the ancient strategic texts, they describe this focus as a kind of internal purification process. It works on several levels, systematically. First, it actively cleanses the mind. And this isn't just about feeling better. It's like actively scrubbing away the toxic stuff left by the lies. You're making sure the ruler's falsehood doesn't take root and become your own internal narrative. You're choosing the lens.
Yeah, because it's either mic. Got it.
Second, and this is critical, it silences that rising tide of anxiety. Slander is meant to make you afraid, to make you panic. By anchoring your thoughts deliberately on these unchanging truths, the decrees you essentially starve that anxiety response. And third, it strengthens the soul. It acts like spiritual armor, really, preparing you to endure the trial without letting the external attacks define who you are.
And our source material links this directly to a tangible outcome: stability. There's that promise, isn't there, about perfect peace being kept for those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust. That seems to be the strategic goal here, like in Isaiah 26.3. It suggests that consistent focus is the actual key to keeping your balance, your operational equilibrium, even under massive pressure.
Precisely. It's this deliberate redirection. You're consciously choosing internal sovereignty, in a way. You're picking solid foundational truth over all the noise and the uncertainty coming from human lies. What the deep dive shows is that these decrees are seen as fixed operating principles. They can't be changed by the shifting opinions of powerful people.
Okay, so we get the strategy in its original context. But now, let's bridge this to today. How does this ancient idea hold up in the age of, instant rebuttal, where lies can circle the globe on social media in seconds? How does focusing inward on decrees actually help you handle a modern Twitter storm or some coordinated media attack?
I think the application is maybe even more vital today, precisely because the attacks are so much faster, so much more pervasive. We can see how the strategy works across different modern settings. Think about polarized political climates. Leaders, communities, constantly slandering each other, manufacturing outrage. The person who chooses this internal focus, this meditation, instead of just jumping into the fray, they retain clarity. They keep their moral integrity. They essentially refuse to become just another part of the outrage machine.
And that has to apply directly to, say, corporate culture too, or media culture. You see rumors, falsehoods spreading like wildfire, often targeting someone's professional reputation, the kind of cleansing the sources talk about. It comes from fixing your attention on fundamental principles, your own established values, rather than getting sucked into that endless, exhausting loop of trying to battle the narrative on its own shifting terms.
Absolutely. And it holds true even in very local personal situations. Think about workplaces, schools, community groups, where someone might be mocked or falsely accused, maybe for their beliefs or just, office politics. Choosing the decrees, choosing that internal anchor, it often brings this unexpected peace. And that peace can actually disarm the accusers because the target isn't playing the expected role. They're not frantic. They're not defensive in the way people expect. And even looking bigger, in situations of global unrest where you have powerful voices actively distorting truth, spreading propaganda, this personal discipline of meditation becomes the ultimate defense against being mentally and emotionally enslaved by those falsehoods.
Right. And to make this strategy really concrete, the sources give us these specific global examples, testimonies of this principle actually working. So let's move beyond the theory and look at how this resilience mechanism plays out in real life.
Let's do that. These examples really show the mechanics. Take South America, specifically Brazil. There's a case of a pastor falsely accused by local officials. It was a politically charged situation. His response strategy: daily meditation on specific scriptures, focusing on truths about his own character, God's promises of eventual vindication. And what's fascinating isn't just that it gave him peace, which it did, but it allowed him to maintain composure, maintain clarity. That internal stability was actually crucial for navigating the legal process over months, allowing the real truth to eventually come out.
That shift is key, isn't it? From emotional chaos to strategic clarity. And then you look across the continent, Africa, specifically Kenya. We hear about a teacher slandered in their community because of their faith.
Yeah, and their response wasn't issuing defensive statements or anything like that. It was purely internal grounding. They found that cleansing peace by repeatedly, consciously standing firm through meditation, focusing on Psalm 23, and this refusal to engage, this quiet dignity, it allowed them to just continue their work consistently. It effectively neutralized the lie over time through their unwavering presence.
Yeah.
Then look towards Asia, say India, a student facing intense mockery in their university class, a really painful, isolating thing. Instead of lashing out, which would be the instinct, right? They chose meditation on Proverbs, focusing on wisdom, on prudence, and this enabled a really measured, humble response. That humility actually became this unexpected source of strength that sort of confused the mockers.
And the sources also give us this really potent example against widespread, systemic lies.
Yeah.
In Europe, thinking specifically of Ukraine, believers who are facing massive state-sponsored propaganda, just pervasive lies everywhere, they cling to their foundational decrees. The meditation isn't just passive reflection in that context. It's an active choice, again and again, to reaffirm truth when every external narrative is trying to twist it. It's almost like intellectual and spiritual resistance.
It absolutely is. And finally, consider the deeply personal stories that really highlight this cleansing piece that results. We hear about a widow in Guyana, facing really painful slander from her own family after her husband passed away. She found refuge, daily refuge, by meditating on Psalm 91. Now, the meditation didn't magically stop the slander, of course not, but it built this internal stronghold, the safe place inside that the external lies just couldn't breach.
And similarly, that story of Nigerian youth falsely accused of theft. He found freedom, not just legal acquittal, but internal freedom from bitterness and resentment through disciplined daily scripture meditation. The strategy always seems to be about securing that internal truth first, doesn't it?
Always. And even, a refugee in Europe constantly dealing with falsehoods about their background, their intentions, they silence the despair, not by arguing, not by debating endlessly, but by choosing prayer and scripture instead. It just shows this strategy works across cultures, across different levels of severity, even across language barriers. It's fundamental.
Okay, this is a really robust framework, but it clearly demands discipline, internal discipline. So let's make it completely practical. What are the, say, 3 key steps the sources give for applying this strategy right now?
Right. The action plan is straightforward, but yeah, it demands rigor. Step 1 is crucial. Pause before reacting. When you feel that immediate hot sting of slander, the first strategic move is to turn inward first. Turn to scripture, to the decree, before you say a single word in defense or retaliation. This immediately breaks that fight or flight cycle that the slanderer wants to trigger.
Okay, pause first. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Step 2.
Step 2 is setting up a specific meditation plan. You don't just vaguely reflect. You actually choose one specific decree, one promise, one fixed truth that directly counters the specific lie you're facing. And you focus intently on that. It's like targeted internal resistance fighting a specific lie with a specific chosen truth.
Targeted. I like that. And step 3.
Step 3 is about community strength. The sources really encourage sharing the strength, the sustenance you gain from this meditation with others, especially with others who might be facing similar attacks or institutional pressures. This sharing reinforces the truth within the community, and it makes the individual struggle less isolating, turning it into a source of collective resilience.
And that brings us full circle back to the core idea of spiritual cleansing. It's not about being passive at all. The strategy seems crystal clear. The goal isn't letting the slander define you. It's about using the truth of the decrees to refine you. It's an active process of internal transformation.
Exactly. And that transformation rests fundamentally on the ultimate principle here, non-retaliation. The ancient documents are very direct about this, pointing to teachings like Romans 12:1 hone, don't take revenge, vengeance belongs to God. This strategic meditation is the pathway that allows you to maintain your inner peace, your emotional health, while leaving the consequences of the lie the ultimate justice to a higher power. It frees you up. So in the end, this deep dive into Psalm 119.23, it really gives us this timeless, incredibly powerful strategic manual. It shows that even when you're facing lies from the powerful, from institutions, that ultimate peace, that cleansing, it's found not by jumping into the external fight, but by choosing that inward focus on unchanging principles. That's the definition of a real long-term strategic edge.
So we want to leave you, the listener, not just with the information, but equipped with this strategy and maybe a direct, immediate challenge. Think about one area, just one, of misunderstanding, maybe mockery, or even outright slander in your life right now. It could be big, could be small, from an institution or just someone personal. And instead of going down that tempting path of instant reaction, instant retaliation, challenge yourself. Try choosing meditation on one specific scripture, one core principle for your strength. And maybe the most powerful step, challenge yourself to share this strategic promise of peace, this approach, with someone else you know who's currently struggling with false words. Until our next deep dive, keep meditating, stay steadfast in the truth, and keep exploring the knowledge that gives you real control.